On this edition of Southern Newsweek, a mass vaccination program begins on Rakiura, Stewart Island. Forbury Park Raceway is closed after the last running of the greyhounds. And a tourism plan has been announced for Milford Sound, but not everybody's happy. Kia ora, I'm Melissa Barton. New Zealand's southernmost COVID-19 vaccine clinic has popped up on Stewart Island. A medical crew of 12 flew into the island to start the first round of vaccinations, which finished up recently.
Nurse practitioner Nadine Goldsmith of Awarua Whānau Services in Invercargill was being very careful with the delicate vials of COVID-19 vaccine before their flight to Stewart Island.
And so we have to be pretty careful and gentle, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, when we're handling this, because we have to make sure that the vaccine doesn't get move too much, that it's handled delicately.
Wednesday saw Goldsmith and a team of 11 other medical staff make a start on delivering the first COVID jab to the 385 eligible people on the island.
We were going to vaccinate 15 local people from Rakiura, and then our clinic will be walk-in clinics, and so the hope is that as many people as possible from Rakiura will come in and receive dose 1 of their vaccination.
When the clinic opened its doors on Thursday for the first full day of immunisations, locals flocked in, with more than 100 people being vaccinated in the first 2.5 hours, and there being no sign of demand slowing.
Well, it's good to know that the first step's been taken, and 1 to go in 3 weeks or however long it is. It's pretty good to be on the train.
It's also important that every single corner of Aotearoa, New Zealand, gets the same access to vaccine, and so we're really excited to be here to give the people of Rakiura a positive health experience and to vaccinate them safely.
A clinic to administer the second dose of the vaccine is set to run on the island in mid-August to ensure residents are fully vaccinated. On Stewart Island, the South Today.
The Otago Greyhound Racing Club held its last race meeting at Forbury Park, and the track is now closed as the racing industry tries to cut costs. Trainer John McInerney says he's disappointed at how the club was being treated by the New Zealand Greyhound Racing Organisation.
Charging out of the starting boxes for one of the very last times, greyhounds raced around the track for the final meeting at Forbury Park in South Dunedin on Friday. Darfield-based trainer and owner John McInerney says he has happy memories of bringing his children to dog race meetings as early as the mid-1980s.
When they were 4 or 5 years old, we used to come down here and race dogs from Otago, and they'd be up around the grandstands, up in the commentator's box. The kids had a great time, and so did we.
The club, which opened this track in 1980, is now without a home because Forbury Park is set to be mothballed and sold, a victim of a major review that decided the facility is economically unsustainable.
I'd just like to say one thing. It's a sad day, and it's a sad day we don't have a representative from the Greyhound Board to come down here after all these years, 44 years plus. No one from the Greyhound Racing New Zealand has even said a kind word or come down and said, well, this is what we can do to help you people. Sorry, you're closing down. Waihola-based greyhound owner and trainer John Guthrie won the first race of the day with a dog called Aramoana, who, when she retires, will become his personal pet. Both he and McInerney are keen to point out that almost 100% of greyhounds these days are rehomed as pets.
I've rehomed just about every dog I've had, and I've had a lot of dogs. I'm always going to have 2, and they'll be living in our lounge down the track. The one that you saw win the first race will always be with me.
People don't know. Like if a dog breaks a leg here today, the vet will take it away, fix it up, and then it'll go to either the girl in Invercargill or it'll go to Bradshaw's in Christchurch, and they'll keep it till it's ready to go out to a home.
But Friday was possibly not the end of the club, with a hope that they will be allowed to establish a greyhound track 1.5 hours drive north in Oamaru.
It's a very good locality. It would suit me perfectly, suit a lot of people. Whether it happens is another story, you know.
In Dunedin, the South Today.
Parts of Fiordland may become a lot more tranquil if the Milford Opportunities Project Master Plan goes ahead. The project proposes banning cruise ships and fixed-wing aircraft from the inner reaches of the Sound.
The days of monster cruise ships sailing through the inner arms of Fiordland's Milford Sound may be over. The Milford Opportunities Project Master Plan was unveiled at a presentation in Te Anau yesterday. Keith Turner of the governance group says it's a result of 4 years of research and analysis distilled into a report of over 1,500 pages.
The way Milford was accessed by the majority in the pre-COVID days was they all turned up at around midday, and it was a big crush and a rush for 2 or 3 hours, and then it went quiet. We're approaching this with a goal to try and distribute the number of people going in so that they don't feel like they're tripping over each other, and actually we can get more people in with greater degree of tranquility and sense of place if we manage it properly than we might have been able to before.
The project also calls for a ban on fixed-wing aircraft at Milford, and Great South CEO Graham Budd says he's largely in favour of the project, which was created in response to rising numbers of tourists jostling for a chance to take in the iconic views.
I think that this has actually got a really positive, has a really positive impact on what the future experience will be and should be for one of New Zealand's, most iconic experiences. So, thinking about improving visitor experiences in the future, particularly when international visitors are able to get back into the country, I think it's going to be nothing but positive.
The report also proposes that overseas visitors will have to pay to enter the area, with Turner keen to see a different approach to the pre-COVID one of shovelling as many visitors through as possible.
There was something like 870,000 in 2019 before COVID. Most of those were international tourists, only about 15% were New Zealanders, and they were all travelling from Queenstown. Majority were travelling from Queenstown to Milford and back in a day. So a long day, big rush, not a lot of time to dwell, not a lot of time to soak in the extraordinary grandeur of the wilderness place that we've got here. So they were really missing the true essence of the visit.
The New Zealand Cruise Association says cruise ships could abandon visiting Fiordland if the entry ban goes ahead, possibly resulting in them missing other ports such as Dunedin as well. In Fiordland, the South Today.
A fledgling southern cheerleading club is setting its sights on nationwide competitions later this year. The Otago University Students Association Cheerleading Stunt and Tumble Club is only a few years old, but its growing membership is reaching for the stars.
Bringing it on time and time again. Looking like rehearsals from a teen cheerleading movie, members of the Otago University Students Association Cheerleading Stunt and Tumble Club are propelled into the air, and the club's founder is welcoming new people.
So you just kind of come in, and if it piques your interest, then we'll take you. Some of our athletes are retired gymnasts, so they already have some of the tumbling skills, and some of them are dancers, and it just whatever you come with, we just make it work.
They hold regular Monday night training sessions at Eclipse Cheerleading in King Edward Court, which are fast, fun and full of energy. Club founder and president Roberta Noon started the club in 2018 when she saw the university didn't have one.
The universities of Auckland, Victoria and Canterbury all have their own cheerleading club, and when I came down here, Otago didn't have one, so we decided we needed to fix that. And there was a lot of talent down here, it was just not being used. So
the club began with about 15 members, and there are now about 25 members in a beginners team, with a further 10 in an advanced squad. Last year the club took 2 teams to Auckland to participate in the Cheer Factor 2020 competition, and despite it being their first time competing, both teams scored.
And this year we're taking 2 teams again to compete in Wellington for Ministry of Cheer, and then in October we're going to Christchurch to compete in Alpine Classic, which is another cheerleading competition, so hopefully we're ready for it.
Roberta Noon says a good routine includes stunts in which people are thrown into the air, as well as acrobatic tumbling and synchronised dance moves, all of which are choreographed to up-tempo music. She says it's about 2.5 minutes of full-on cardio craziness. In Dunedin, the South Today.
Still to come on this edition of Southern Newsweek, a researcher is looking into how infants react with different ways of entering water. And many farmers and their dogs headed to the Beaumont pub to see whose farming dogs bark the loudest. So catch this and more after the break. Welcome back. A Dunedin researcher is studying how infants respond to water. Her investigations with babies at Moana Pool have already shown young children are more likely to venture into deep water if it's a gentle slope and not a steep drop-off into the water.
University of Otago researcher Dr. Carolina Burney is using Dunedin's Moana Pool to research how babies respond to the dangers of water. With the help of new mothers, the study has shown that if a pond or pool has a steep drop-off, infants can see it's unsafe. But if there's a sloped entrance into the water, it can be enticing for young children.
They don't understand avoiding going into the water. If it's not a fall leading to the water, they just go. If they can walk or crawl to the water, they go. If there is a fall, they think twice and maybe they're not going.
Burney says the more crawling experience an infant has, the more likely they will avoid falling into water. And she says protecting babies too much prevents them from learning how to perceive risks around them.
Protecting the babies too much is actually doing the opposite. They are not learning how to perceive the risk and they are not learning how to avoid the risk. We need to allow them to crawl, to have this experience, to start perceiving what's risky and what's not risky.
Burney started her study in Portugal with more than 200 babies. Now in Dunedin, she's studied the behaviour of more than 90 infants under 1.5 years old. And she plans to go back to Portugal for more backup studies, just in case there are cultural differences in the behaviours of young children.
So now I'm testing babies in Moana Pool on a slope going to the water and on a drop-off going to the water. And later we're going to do the same study in Portugal.
Dr. Burney is still looking for 70 more infants in Dunedin to take part in her study. In Dunedin, the South Today.
Around 40 farm dogs turned up to the Beaumont Hotel to take part in the establishment's first bark up. The fundraising event was organised by a local shepherd who first came to New Zealand about 8 years ago as a German backpacker.
The Beaumont Hotel held its very first bark up on Saturday. The event was organised by Jana Fransbach, who has been a shepherd in New Zealand for over the last 7 years and also works part-time at the hotel's bar. Fransbach also took part in the friendly competition with her huntaway called Jade.
It's non-competitive, you can't sort of train for it because you have your dog, your huntaway, and it barks. So today the winner is who's got the loudest, most grunty bark. That's the main winner of the event. So it's actually just a social event to get everyone together, talk about their dogs, bring their dogs.
Working together with the Miller's Flat Collie Club, the bark up attracted a crowd of about 80 people, with Waitahuna Collie Club President Carl Burnett helping judge the 40 or so canine entries doing what they do best most mornings.
Generally, barking up is associated with the beginning of a muster, and it's probably early in the morning and they're fresh and they're ready to go. So they'll give it all, and that bark up will send sheep on their way and set the tone for the rest of the day.
A smartphone app was used to accurately record the volume of each dog's bark, with owners knowing they would have to get up onto hay bales themselves and bark if their dog was too shy.
Some dogs are so scared of the environment, there's no sheep, no tussock, and they end up sulking. And in that case, you might have to get up yourself on the hay bale and bark for your dog.
A portion of the $10 entry fee is to be donated to the rural wellbeing charity called Will to Live. In Beaumont, the South Today.
A newly graduated vet working in Riversdale near Gore is learning a lot on the job. While Laura Gardine works mainly with dairy herds, she says she has to do research into the needs of some of the household pets brought into her clinic.
24-year-old Laura Gardine is a newly graduated vet who joined the Northern Southland Vet Clinic at Riversdale near Gore in February. Her job sees her working a lot with dairy herds across the fertile plains of Southland.
Today we're off to a dairy farm. We're going to blood test for trace minerals pre-calving. So we've just gone through winter. We're just checking if the levels are high enough in the herd.
Gardine says she enjoys her job, and while it's mainly dairy herds, she also does look after household pets.
Yeah, I really enjoy the variety, I guess the amount of people that I get to see, and yeah, different animals, satisfaction of making them better, or I guess frustrations when things don't go to plan isn't ideal. But
while she grew up around animals on a farm in the nearby settlement of Chatton, she's discovering there's always something new to learn on the job.
I guess there's always a lot to learn, like I don't know everything, so a lot of researching or asking other people for help. Yeah, and I guess just dealing with cases you've never seen before.
In Riversdale, the South Today.
A 5-year passion project at Wanaka's secret urban wetland, Bullock Creek, recently achieved another milestone, with Friends of Bullock Creek unveiling informative panels next to the area's boardwalks.
Former English and science teacher Helen Horwath inherited the Bullock Creek Research Project when she joined the committee 18 months ago.
Overall there are four of these boards, and that was the first one that went up, and it's basically about the nature, the botany. This map here was, I think it was an original landscaping map that we used to put what was here, and we've got some of the features.
Each panel shares a different piece of information about the area, with the aim of educating visitors to the site. Helen Horwath and Wanaka graphic designer Eddie Spearing combined forces to create the 4 panels, some of which celebrate the natural environment.
Guaro, rainbow trout, brown trout, and a whistling tree frog, which you can actually hear sometimes now. And then we've got some of the birds that you can see. These are these native birds. Well, that one's not, but you can see them from time to time. And of course the plants, for those who want to know what they're looking at.
Horwath describes herself as the chief gatherer of information and was pleased to enhance her own knowledge of Bullock Creek and its environs. She says the story of how the area was named is, well, pretty obvious.
And it was quite simply that one day a bullock, which was yoked to, I believe, a horse cart, not a bullock cart, got caught up on the banks of the stream Fallon and died.
Horwath admits she's now hooked on the creek's history and will continue collecting information, though she doesn't want to rush the next project and is welcoming people to share their stories of the area. In Wanaka, the South Today.
Still to come on Southern Newsweek, snow sports enthusiasts have another run to take on near Wanaka, and a hugely successful Dunedin band returns to the city to buy the landmark flat where they formed. So see you after the break. Thanks for staying with us. Skiers and snowboarders finally got to test out the new Willows Basin ski area. After gaining access from Cardrona Alpine Resort, many raced to be the first down the mountain of the new Willows quad chair and be first on the lift to receive a free t-shirt.
After delays due to not enough snow, Cardrona Alpine Resort's new Willows Quad chairlift finally opened on Thursday. Caleb McDonald says he came down from Tauranga to enjoy some skiing, without specific plans to be one of the first people to ride the new lift.
Oh, all I wanted was the free t-shirt, you know. The snow's good, but we still don't know how all the runs run.
General Manager Bridget Legnevsky says the new south-facing basins feature undulating terrain, suitable for both intermediate skiers and snowboarders alike.
This is amazing. This is 2 brand new bowls of 65 hectares of incredible terrain. So I think people are stoked to get out and have a look around and have a bit of another aspect. It's a new experience.
It had been hoped the new ski area would be open in time for the busy school holidays. However, insufficient snow thwarted that plan. But that's all in the past, with at least 2 months of skiing still to look forward to.
Well, it's really just started. The season has just started. We are still on early snow conditions. We're looking forward to some really good snow, and it's all in front of us this winter. So get on up here and make your plans, because it's going to be fantastic.
The Cardrona ski field is set to close in mid-October. In Cardrona, the South Today.
New Zealand band 660 have bought the Castle Street flat, which gave the band its name. The Dunedin 5-piece band formed while students at the University of Otago, and now just over a decade later are choosing to help musicians studying at Otago.
The band 660, who formed while flatting at 660 Castle Street, have bought their former flat.
And we just want to help to harness that and make it as accessible as it was for us, because when we're here, really, look, we were just hanging out with our friends, doing things for our friends. The street was packed with students, and it was such a natural progression for us, and we just want to feed that fire.
They reportedly bought the 6-bedroom flat for $1.7 million from a private landlord. Part of the band's plan is to encourage up-and-coming musicians, which is being done in conjunction with the University of Otago.
An amazing thing to do, I think, that the band want to actually take a part back in Dunedin and to look after the students that are here. Yeah. So it's really amazing that they want to give back to the university and particularly to the students, not to the institution per se. Yeah.
660 met with the flat's current tenants and had a walk-through before a local kaumatua walked through with the band, blessing Te Whare with karakia. The band's keyboard player says buying the flat is only the beginning of their involvement.
It's really the tip of the iceberg. What's underneath is a scholarship that we're providing for students and for people like-minded who are interested in music, not necessarily studying music, but have an interest and maybe studying other stuff, to be able to get mentored by us and have the scholarship to help them realise their dreams.
660 have been together for about 12 years, releasing their first EP in 2009. Marlon Gerbs and Eli Paiwai say the band learnt a few lessons along the way.
Well, I personally think drinking when you're playing, that was a big band golden opportunity, is drinking too much before we play. Now we don't drink as much, but afterwards.
Yeah, and that adversity is good. I think as a group, you're never stronger than you are after you come through a challenge or some kind of adversity. I think people should embrace it.
Just before the band pulled up, amidst the growing media scrum, neighbours at 668 Castle Street, who admit being 660 fans, were pretty sure they'd remain cool when the band arrived.
I'm just going to stand here and act really cool.
Yeah, just act calm, collected, even though we're really excited.
As part of the deal, 4 students will live rent-free for a year, each with a $10,000 scholarship, and the chance to be mentored by members of the band. In Dunedin, the South Today.
More than 80 people laughed the night away at the Otago's new Athenaeum Theatre last weekend. It was the final heat in the Dunedin leg of the Lower South Island Raw Comedy Quest.
Dunedin's new Athenaeum Theatre was comfortably packed for the city's final heat of the Lower South Island Raw Comedy Quest. Canadian comedian Alex Muczynski says the art of stand-up comedy is alive and well in the South.
Comedy is one of those arts, like probably most arts, where a crowd really matters, but if some
I think maybe less, and in this case, the energy you get from a crowd really kind of builds a show, and today with 9 incredible comedians, I think they got a real show.
Treading the boards and taking the microphone in the spotlight isn't something anyone can do. At the grand old age of 19, a comedian, simply known as Mo, has learnt a few tricks during their time, including which type of open mic to turn up to.
When you're younger, you're sometimes sort of a bit fearless, and my first gig that I ever did, I got the thing wrong, and instead of it being a comedy open mic, it was a music open mic. So, you know, I've come a long way.
Alex Muczynski, Mo, Ben McCook-Weir and Maria Colombo have managed to convince the judges on the night and will be making their way through to the regional semi-finals. And although she's new to stand-up, Maria Colombo says the local scene is in good heart and humour.
I actually run a Brosaurus, so I work in the improv side of things. This is actually my first stand-up competition. And I always love the Dunedin comedy scene when I go investigate it outside of the own things I'm doing. But yeah, it's great, full of amazing artists. Dunedin is just like this melting pot of talent, and yeah.
The next southern audiences set to have their funny bones tickled will be in Queenstown on August 21st at the regional semi-finals. In Dunedin, the South Today.
And that wraps up this edition of Southern Newsweek. For the latest news from across the southern regions of Tuaipanamu, please head online to www.odt.co.nz and follow Channel 39 on Facebook and YouTube. Ka kite anō.
Supporting local content so you can see more of New Zealand on air.